Hey everybody, welcome to your Friday post-wrestling news update. I'm John Pollock, along with Wai Ting. Happy Friday, happy WandaVision Day. Am I correct, Wai?
Yes, it is. New MCU content finally. It's been over a year, so it's a big day for all of us.
I had no idea until you sent me a message this morning regarding WandaVision, and then I saw the tweets online that this was, when did it drop? Like overnight?
I'm guessing like somewhere like early morning today.
Is it the whole season or just the first episode?
First 2 episodes right now. It's going to be just like The Mandalorian, like I think week to week.
I see. Okay. Well,
so maybe we'll. Are you going to watch first of all, John?
Okay, so my wife wants to watch it. I would like to see it. I don't know if it's not going to be a first day viewing for me, but maybe first month viewing. I will get to it.
Okay. Well, maybe we should announce it right now. I have tentatively booked somebody to join me for a series of WandaVision reviews for our Patreon. It's
How
been
fast do you work?
I work really fast. The moment you said the sentence, I just clicked, and then I got a confirmation. But it's been a while since we've had our MCU reviews, of course. So we're gonna bring them back for WandaVision. We're probably gonna do them either bi-weekly or weekly. We don't know yet, but it'll all be exclusive on postwrestlingcafe.com, which is our Patreon. And joining me this Sunday for our first episode, W.H. Park.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Look at that. The man that is just moving all the pieces behind the scenes, W.H. Park and Wai Ting coming together. I look forward to this. I will be listening along. Before we get to the news, one final question. Did you watch the Total Bellas episode yet this week with the birth?
I have not. No.
Plural, I should say.
The births. Yeah, I have not. I'm saving those for next week when we do the podcast. But did you?
I haven't seen it, but this is one episode I probably will watch at some point, maybe this weekend.
The assessment of Daniel Bryan's camera work still to come.
Yes, that will be reviewed by Wai Ting and Pauline at a date to be determined. But Wai, what is in the news today?
So I'll be introducing some of the topics today as John gives me some of his reactions. But let's start off here with the AEW-NXT ratings. AEW on Wednesday finished 31st for the evening with a $762,000 viewer average, not dollars, which is up 15%, and a .30 in the demo, up 20%. NXT finished outside the top 50 with 551,000, down 14%, and a .15 in the demo. What are your assessments about these results, John?
Well, while you just kind of leaped over a mistake, what a reintroduction of the television rating system. If you got paid the amount in dollars every week by your network based on what
per viewer.
You get $1 per viewer. Yeah, that could be a new system in place for future years. But again, this was a week where, not to the extent of last week's news coverage, but still news dominated on Wednesday. It was the top 15 cable positions throughout the day is what they were up against. And I think it's only a precursor of what we're going to see next week, where I think it'll be a similar tale. AEW recovered much better. NXT was down. AEW was up. But this is still, I compared this week's AEW number to the one from December 23rd. So throwing out last week's episode and the Brody Lee episode. Those were two very unique set of circumstances. So, I mean, they're largely back to that December 23rd level, except in a few of the younger demos. They're not quite back to those levels. And I think you have to realistically look at 2 weeks from now and then the Beach Break episode of kind of a better assessment of AEW's numbers and where they're at. So it seemed that, there was more of a bounce back from last week, but I think not still affected, though, by the news that was going on Wednesday.
And a trend that looks to continue, maybe even worse next week. With
also in Canada, they did just over 91,000 viewers, but they were up against the opening night of the NHL, which was a double whammy because the Toronto Maple Leafs were playing Montreal, and that did over 2.1 million viewers in Canada, which is a enormous figure for Canadian sports. So AEW was behind hockey, but I would say 91,000. I mean, it's low. It's certainly much lower from last week's figure, but that is something to remember now for future weeks, that they will be going up against the NHL now that they have resumed or started their latest season.
Any thoughts on NXT this week?
Just that it was an episode that I thought there was some good wrestling on the show, built around the Dusty Classic. Maybe an early contender for the best/worst line uttered by a performer when Timothy Thatcher talked about being a lion and accusing Tommaso Ciampa of being a zebra, and Tommaso Ciampa screaming back, "I am no zebra."
I'm sure it makes sense. Everybody's got their spirit animal in the WWE. So
the lion versus the zebra in the fight pit next week, but
better than a dog, I suppose. I also thought like a set of like really good Dusty, like 3 really good Dusty Classic matches. I think like this tournament is going to hold this show up pretty well for the next few weeks. Good debut for MSK, formerly the Rascals. Lots of physical charisma from that team. Yes. Everybody enjoy this while it lasts, while they're in NXT, because the moment they get called up into the main roster, it's like I don't know how much to expect for these two, unfortunately.
Oh man, the mini bros.
The mini bros, yeah. Matt Riddle needs new bros.
For the sake of accuracy here, I looked it up. The exact line from Ciampa, which it was even better, was, "Do I look like a freaking zebra?" That was the line he used, and was a great line. But MSK, yeah, I thought a very good debut. I enjoyed Isaiah Scott and Jake Atlas together as a team, but by the next segment, they were partners at each other's throats backstage and will not be a team moving forward, it appears. But some big matches on the horizon. Clearly, Finn Balor and Pete Dunne, but also Johnny Gargano and Kushida. They're priming Raquel Gonzalez. Like, that video feature really does seem like Rhea Ripley's kind of send-off is kind of how it feels. Like, that seems to be, the end of Rhea Ripley is how it came off.
Timing with the Rumble kind of works out. Rhea Ripley has no more to accomplish, and that call-up has been rumored for a long time. Yeah, any other takeaways from the show? Dunne and Balor, like, as you mentioned.
I mean, I think they're a show that, last week they were okay. It was a big special that they ran, but obviously were impacted greatly, as were AEW. But I would say that NXT, it's like they've got a lot of good stuff on the show, but it's still a show to me that is really struggling to gain any sustained momentum beyond kind of building up to these specials every now and then. And it's certainly, I think, missing a spark.
Fightful Select is reporting that WrestleMania 37 will be slightly delayed from its originally scheduled date of March 27th, moving to April 11th. And now this is a significant date, I suppose, because it is moving the date to after the start of the MLB season, with the Devil Rays currently scheduled to play a home game at Tropicana Field. So what do you think, John? Where do we see WrestleMania?
Yeah, they have not, WWE has not officially announced this date change or a location for WrestleMania. Obviously, it's not going to be happening at SoFi Stadium, which is where this was originally to be for this year in Inglewood, California. In the report, Fightful did note the fact that Raymond James Stadium there aren't events going on that day. That would seem like a logical place to put it if you're staying in Florida and not running at Tropicana Field. So, I mean, that you would assume is like the leading candidate to host WrestleMania. And yeah, moving it, it was going to be, 2 weeks later, which I guess the next question is what is WWE's stance going to be on capacity for this show, if at all? That would be the show you would be somewhat targeting to have fans, but is that going to be an option or not? Will they just go ahead with an empty show? I guess that is the next question to ask, and it's very hard to be able to forecast even a couple of months from now of what is the temperature going to be like, not literally but figuratively, in the state of Florida.
In Florida, I feel like they'll be allowed to have some people. But
you would assume like that would be like if they had wanted it, they probably could have introduced fans at the Rumble this year, and they are not. So I think that it's very much on WWE's end of if they want to have fans or not, what they're comfortable doing.
It'll probably be something we hear about soon, the date approaching pretty closely. On the subject of dates being moved, AEW Dynamite has been moved once again from their debut in Newark, New Jersey. This was, of course, originally scheduled for last March, right before the pandemic. This was
going to be the Blood and Guts show.
Yes, that was postponed until July, and then postponed once again to February 24th. Now it has been postponed one more time to September 15th of this year. So we shall see if that sticks. But as John mentioned, everything is changing at all times.
I'm unsure why you even throw out a date at this point. It's like it's total guesswork at this point to be able to assume you can do something in September. But I guess it's just their procedure of here is a date that we are targeting. But of course, everybody knows it's a moving one.
Yeah. I mean, it's a much hyped show. This thing, they've got to have blood and guts, I think, for it by that point. So we shall see what the state of the world is in September. One more, change here for us to announce, and that comes from Impact. Unfortunate news as the much hyped 6-man tag between Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers taking on Rich Swann and the Motor City Machine Guns sees a change as Alex Shelley has been unable to travel to Nashville for Hard to Kill due to, as Impact has said, unavoidable circumstances. Very unfortunate, but he will be replaced by Moose.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, hopefully it is nothing too severe, whatever Alex Shelley is dealing with. So we hope on that front, everything is okay. And yeah, it just seems like this was a very last minute change that they had to make. And it'll now be Moose inserted. I mean, storyline wise, they have been building up that Rich Swann and Moose will be the next big Impact Championship match after last weekend's Genesis show, where that was the closing angle, where Moose was going to attack the neck of Willie Mack, and Rich Swann came to his aid and offered the title match if he would spare Willie Mack, and then Moose quit. Therefore, Willie Mack won the I Quit match, but Moose is guaranteed a title shot. So we have Partners Way that might not get along on Saturday night as our backdrop for this. But do you think that this, I think that it doesn't affect people's enjoyment of the show in terms of whether they were going to buy the show or not. And it's one that it does have this internal Impact storyline with Swann and Moose now teaming together along with the interpromotional angle.
I do think, unfortunately, it takes it down a notch because I think the Motor City Machine Guns as a tandem together is a hook for a lot of people. But the main hook, of course, is still seeing Kenny Omega on a pay-per-view teaming with the Good Brothers against 3 people from Impact. And I imagine people will still be just as interested if were already planning on ordering. And that's a great segue to tee up what's coming on this weekend in the schedule, because as we mentioned, of course, we got the WandaVision review happening on the cafe, but also on this weekend we have an Impact Hard to Kill post show hosted by Davey Portman, Andrew Thompson, and Nate Milton. So you should subscribe to the Up Next feed for that. I imagine Davey will also be hosting a watch along at twitch.com/upnextpodcast. And if you subscribe to the Post Wrestling Cafe, you also have access to SmackDown tonight, or Rewind to SmackDown at 10:15 p.m. Eastern. What's on SmackDown tonight, John?
We've got, they've announced Shinsuke Nakamura versus Jey Uso, Rey Mysterio against King Corbin, and I thought this was a really unique idea. They're going to have Roman Reigns in the ring with Adam Pearce, and they're going to sign the contract on television. Well,
you got to try new ideas. Now's the time.
When do we get the WWE network playlist of the best of contract signings?
Yeah,
it's got to outnumber any stipulation match they've done by this point.
Contract signings as a I don't know if you call it a stipulation. It's more so just a segment,
an idea. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's it, everybody.
Tonight.
Yeah. We've hit our limit for these news updates. Join us tonight for Rewind to SmackDown Live if you're a Post Wrestling Cafe patron. Otherwise, check out all the coverage at postwrestling.com.